In this study, we showed that a human social interaction with two non-humanoid robots can impact a separate human-human interaction that does not involve robots. This carryover effect is implicit, and people were not aware of the robot's influence on their behavior in the subsequent social interaction. In other words, the social effect created during a human-robot interaction may have implications that extend beyond the immediate experience with the robots. Human-human interactions that take place after such a human-robot interaction may be impacted and even shaped by the earlier experience.
We specifically spotlighted non-humanoid robots since their mechanical nature may increase the chances that the carryover effect will be overlooked. Building on previous social psychology studies, we focused on a human-robot interaction that involves ostracism, a social experience with profound carryover effects. We would like to invite our undergraduate research assistants who worked with us on the project to present the study.
Prior work includes non-HRI studies indicating ostracism carryover effects and HRI studies that evaluated the impact of robots on human-human interaction. Ostracism is defined as the experience of being socially excluded by others. It is known to lead to highly negative feelings due to a threat to psychological needs related to well-being. Threatening these needs leads to various carryover effects impacting subsequent social interactions. One well-documented ostracism carryover effect is prosocial behavior. Trying to compensate for the exclusion experience, participants subconsciously seek opportunities to threaten interpersonal bonds and increase their acceptance by others. This leads to a range of prosocial behavior, including a decrease in interpersonal space, for increase in intimacy, and an increase in obedience, conformity, and compliance.
Prior relevant HRI studies tested the integration of a robot in human-human interactions. These studies indicated that a robot can influence interaction between humans. Tennant and colleagues showed that a robot resembling a microphone that shifts its attention towards passive group members can increase participation in a group discussion. Ruffinsky and colleagues showed that a robot integrated into a human-human conversation can create an attentive atmosphere that significantly improves participants' interpersonal evaluation. Young and colleagues showed that unequal distribution of blocks by robotic arm led participants to rate their human partner with lower satisfaction levels.
Our work extends prior work by evaluating an HRI carryover effect on a subsequent human-human interaction that does not involve robots. Specifically, we evaluated if ostracism in a human-robot interaction leads to an increase in prosocial behavior in a human-human interaction that follows. To evaluate a robotic ostracism carryover effect, we use the Robotic Ostracism Paradigm, where a participant plays a ball-tossing game with two non-humanoid robots. The tossing ratio to the participant is pre-programmed, forming an exclusion condition where the participant received only 10% of the tosses, and an inclusion condition where the participant received 33% of the tosses.
The Robotic Ostracism Paradigm involves two non-humanoid robots and a robotic arm that rotates under a table leveraging magnetic force to move a physical ball between the human participant and two non-humanoid robots. The participant clicks a button on a physical UI pad to toss the ball. The robots react to the ball's movement with carefully triggered physical gestures designed by an animator. The participant and robot are exactly 120 degrees from each other. The E' software manages the number and order of tosses.
Prosocial behavior was measured in a subsequent interaction with the researcher. Participants were asked to take part in an interview in another room without the robot's involvement or presence.
52 participants were randomly assigned to the two conditions. Exclusion condition, where the participant received only 10% of the tosses. Inclusion condition, where the participant received an equal number of tosses as the robots. The experiment began with the HRI experience where participants were excluded or included by the robots. Following the interaction with the robots, participants were asked to take part in an interview with the researcher in another room.
We evaluated participant prosocial behavior in the subsequent human-human interaction using objective and subjective measures. Objective measures included two aspects of interpersonal space and compliance level. To evaluate interpersonal space, participants choose where to sit in the interview. When entering the interview room, the researcher asked the participant to bring a chair from the hall. As the participant brought the chair, the researcher took a seat in the room at a fixed location, allowing the participant to position the chair and to determine the interpersonal space in the interaction. We measured two aspects of interpersonal space: orientation and distance. Orientation, sitting beside or opposite the researcher, is known to indicate whether one is interested in an intimate social interaction. Distance is known to indicate one's willingness to take part in a social interaction. We also tested compliance level by asking participants to volunteer to fill out an additional questionnaire after the experiment has ended.
The subjective measure was a semi-structured interview that evaluated participants' awareness of the carryover effect.
Our findings show that robotic ostracism had a carryover effect that influenced both interpersonal space and compliance in a later interaction with another human. After experiencing exclusion, participants choose to sit beside the researcher and at a close distance. In the inclusion condition, participants choose to sit opposite to the researcher and at a greater distance. Excluded participants were also more willing to comply with the researcher request to complete another questionnaire after the experiment concluded.
The interview analysis also indicated an increase in participants' prosocial tendencies. After experiencing exclusion, participants stated that they wish to participate in social activities with friends, family, and spouses. Participants did not associate their behavior and ideas in the human-human interaction with the earlier interaction with the robots, even when asked explicitly about it.
Taken together, our findings indicate that the interaction with robots, even non-humanoid robots, can implicitly impact a subsequent human-human interaction. We point out an influence that extends beyond the immediate interaction with robots to situations that are strictly human. This implicit carryover effect may lead to different types of behaviors that in some cases are inconsistent with human best interests, as indicated by the increased compliance in our study. With robotic objects becoming common, our findings indicate that daily interactions with such autonomous devices may implicitly shape humans' interactions with one another. We therefore suggest that robot designers and practitioners have the responsibility to carefully consider not only humans' direct interactions with robots, but also their possible carryover effects on subsequent human-human interactions. We wish to thank all of the amazing people who contributed to this project, and also thank you for watching, and please look up our paper.